Hello and welcome to another Power BI Tale from the Front video. If you're enjoying these videos, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel or follow me on Twitter where I announce each one. And also another plug to go participate in the community. It's a great place to help others and learn new stuff. Today's walkthrough is a Power Query 1, and I would classify it in the intermediate level. So let's look at our scenario. And so this was a user on the community that had a sort of a start date, and they knew how many working days the activity took, and they needed to calculate what the due date should be based on that. There's lots of content out there to calculate the number of working days between two dates. So this is a different kind of situation here where you need to find a date in the future based on the number of working days. This can be done in DAX or M. This person needed it in the query in M, so I'm going to show that one, but there's also, if there's time, I'll go ahead and show the DAX version of this as well. And as always, it's good to, before you start writing any kind of M or DAX, to think about the logic that you need. And so if you were to look at a calendar, take a start date and say go 5 working days out, right? You would just count to 5 and you'd skip the weekend days. And so that's basically the logic we need to generate with our M or DAX code, is to, again, take a start date, make a list of the dates out beyond that, and then take the one at the X position. If it's 5 days out, take the one in the 5th position, and that's our answer. So let's jump over to the query editor and see how to do this one. So if we look at the tasks query, I'll just start with a simple table of start dates and the working days that a certain task needs. And in this one, we're going to use list functions. And I strongly encourage you to start learning list functions. They're very powerful, and I use them in all sorts of solutions on the community and for my work. So the first list we're going to make is this one called called list.dates, and I'll go ahead and click into the settings here, the gear icon, to show you the formula there. And so the list.dates function has 3 terms to it. It has the start date, which we're providing from our start column. It has the number of items in the list to generate. And so in this case, I'm taking the number of working days and multiplying it by 2. The key here is just to have more than you will need. So for example, if I go 5 working days, that's really 7 calendar days. And so if I put a 5 here, that won't be enough dates. So I need to generate a list of dates such that when I take out the weekend days, I'll still have enough dates to go out to that X position for whatever it is. So this could be a dynamic formula. If you know you never have any tasks that are beyond, say, 10 working days, you could hard code this in at 10, for example. And the third term of list.dates is the duration, so how much to increment with each step. And so this is good to understand how to write. This is also the similar kind of syntax that you would use to put in a date or a time, is hashtag duration, and then it's days, hours, minutes, seconds, the terms in there. So if we just put in a 1 in that position, that means we want to increment each item in the list 1 day from the previous. And so you could put in other values there too. And like if you were putting hard coding in a date, you would just do hashtag date, and then it's year, month, day are the terms that go in there. So this will generate a list dynamic that'll go out further than we need from the start date, incrementing out 1 day. Okay, so if we go and look at this list, so this one starts on January 1st, goes 10 days, so there should be a list of 20 dates that we generate. A good trick here is to click to the right. Whenever you see something that's a hyperlink like that, if you click on it, it'll drill down to it. But if you click to the right of it, you can see it in the preview. And so if we expand that, we get our list starting at this date and going out 20 dates. We've generated this list of dates. Okay, so then the second thing we're going to do, and note too, if you decide to download this PBX file, there are comments here as well. And I already covered that, but this is a key point I wanted to make, was that syntax for duration. If we go to the second one, now we're going to actually pick the list pick the items on the list that are weekdays, right? Not weekends. So if we look at the formula for this one, you can see it in the formula bar, but this makes it easier to see just the part that's the magic of the calculation. And so in this case, we're going to select the items that are weekdays from the list that we just created. And so with that one, we use the list.select function. And so how that one works is the first part of the function requires a list, which we generated in this column. So we're actually just referencing that column. So we're saying take the list that sits there in the make a list column, and then we want to select the ones that are, it'll keep the ones that are true. So you need to put an expression here that returns true or false. And so in our case, we're going to check to see that the day of the week is between 1 and 5. The way counting works in Power Query is it starts from 0. So Sunday would be 0, Saturday would be 6. So the days 1 through 5 are Monday through Friday. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to compare the that day of the week, which would return a number of 0 through 6 for depending on what day of the week it is, and then it's going to see if the list 1 through 5 contains that number. So it'll be true if the day of the week is 1 through 5, and it'll be false if it's 6 or 7. This syntax here is important to know because this underscore is basically the whatever value you're iterating over. So this will iterate through the entire list and check this formula to see if it evaluates as true. And so this is basically, hey, use the item that I'm on, throw that value in there. So as it's going through the list, this would be the current value, and then it would return true or false. Okay, so then if we sneak peek at that one, you'll see that we've kept the dates that are weekdays. And so you can see this must have been a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday and Sunday are removed, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we have another weekend. So we've pulled out the weekdays from this. You could certainly get more complex here and throw in a holiday schedule, etc. So I'm keeping this simple with just weekdays. All right, so now we've made our list, and so now we just need to pull out that value at the 10 position to go out 10 days. And so I called this step to get the xth value there. And this if you do look at this comment here, will show you some other things on how to understand list syntax. So that's there if you want to look at that. If we go to the get the x value one and look at the formula there, the syntax to extract a single item from the list is to do the list, and then inside curly brackets put the index position of the item from the list. So in this case, we're taking dynamically the value that's in this working days needed column, putting it inside curly brackets, and then it'll take the one from that position. So you could hard code this in here and put a value 0 to whatever. I'm dynamically using the value in this column to do that. Okay, so it's a list followed by curly brackets with a number inside it. In this case, it's found dynamically. And so then you can see we're pulling out the really the 11th item, since we're putting the number 10 in there from the list. But since we include our start date, that's correct. So this would be the 0 position, and then 10 days out from that would be the 10, but really the 11th item in the list. Okay, so that's how we get our due date. I did this in sequential steps so that it's easy to see what's going on there, but in this one, you really could just go straight from your initial 2 columns and make one function that does all that together, and that's what this one does. It also uses a little bit more tricky formula to dynamically calculate, so you get just the amount of days in the list that you need to always be able to get the number of working days from that list that you need. So that's just a variation on that, but it's the same steps. Okay. All right. So that's how to do it in query. And so now there's a column generated dynamically that calculates the due date from the number of working days and a start date. So that's how to do that one. And if we go back, I'll just show you that on the DAX side, if we go to the table here, you can see that the logic is identical, but of course the syntax is different. So in this case, I called this one DAX due date, and as usual, I put comments that are out here to make it easier to understand, and those you put with a double slash, and it shows up in green here, you can do that. But you can see here, the first thing I'm doing is storing a variable called working days, which is just grabbing the value from that column. And the first row is a 10. Then generating a table that's filtering the dates from the date table. And so this assumes you have a date table where you do have a working day column of yes or no, which is a common thing and definitely a recommended thing to have in your date table. And so this generates a table of dates that are greater than this start date and are just working days. Okay, and then once we have this would be a table, a one-column table. Well, actually, it's the whole date table that would have all of the rows greater than it all the way out, but just the working days. And so what we need to do is to get the one at the, say we're doing 10, we want to get just those first 10 dates in that virtual column that we've created. So for that, I could use the top end function, and this is a way I can keep just those first dates. And basically, I'm saying, hey, take the number of working days, add 1. Again, we're including the start date because we have a greater than or equal to sign there. That includes that first one. Operating the top 10 on this virtual table of working days after, and looking at the date table to decide the order, and then doing it ascending. So we're going from the start date would be the top value. And then from there, we can then use a max x function, which would iterate over this top n. And all we're doing here is, so the first term is a table, so we're operating over this variable here we got from the top n function, and then we're taking the max date. So since it's for example, a 10-row table, we would then take the latest date, which in our case would be our due date. And you can see you return the same values as we got from our M approach. So again, either approach is acceptable. It depends on what you need. So here's just 2 ways to do that. So to sum up, as usual, I'll just show some key points here. One, I definitely encourage you to start learning about list functions. They are very powerful. And with that, learning the syntax for lists and records, there's a similar set of functions for records, which are also powerful. I don't use those as much, but I do use them sometimes. And then learning the syntax for each and underscore. We talked about underscore today, and each was also in there. It's also possible to take the expressions you come up with or the queries you generate and turn them into functions. And so let me just go back to the query editor and show you that real quick. I did take that function. If you go to the advanced editor, you can see the formula here, but it basically creates a function that takes a date and a number of working days as the inputs and would put it through that same calculation as we showed before. So this is really the same expression as we showed before. The key difference is that it has the syntax up above to turn it into a function. And so this is saying, okay, the equals and greater than is the syntax that says this is going to be a function, and you can tell it to expect certain parameters. So in this case, we're going to say, hey, we're going to feed you a date in date format and a number of working days in a number format, and then we want you to do these calculations with those 2 inputs. And once you have that, then it's available for you, for example, to add a column, invoke a custom function, and I'll just keep that name. We could use this and then give it the inputs of, we want the start date as an input and working days needed as an input. And then you can see that, again, you get the same values again. So now I could take this function and copy and paste it into any model that I'm working if I frequently had to do that kind of calculation and save myself some work. Okay. And then the last one is there's lots of solutions like this one that can be done in M or DAX, but definitely each has their strengths, and some, and we'll see in future examples, some are definitely better done in one over the other. Okay, so again, hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to the channel. Thanks.